What moment made you say yep, I'm definitely dead, but survived with no major injuries? I was a senior in high school, and the student club I was in organized an unofficial beach trip towards the end of the year, no teachers or official permission, leaving me and a few other seniors in charge of supervising everything. After a couple hours worth of fun, one of the other students came running up to me and said that 3 of the younger members of the club had been swept out by a riptide and couldn't get back towards the shore. Me and 2 other of the older students, all experienced swimmers, immediately went to go help them. My friends got 2 of the 3 kids in trouble and started guiding them parallel to the shore to get them out of the current, but the guy I went for was panicking, barely staying above the water, and started dragging me down with him almost immediately. I yelled for people to get a lifeguard and tried to keep both of us afloat, but after a few minutes, maybe 5, maybe 10, it felt like forever. I was getting exhausted, having trouble keeping both of us above the water, and I couldn't see anyone coming to the rescue. I started getting big mouthfuls of water and my leg muscles were starting to cramp up, and I remember thinking, holy shit, I might actually die right here, right now, as the current started pulling us further and further away from where everyone was. Thankfully for everyone involved, one of the students on the beach had flagged down a couple of surfers, who made their way out to where we were as quickly as they could and hauled first the younger student and then me onto the front of their boards and took us back to shore. I'll always be thankful and appreciative for those strangers who put themselves in the dangerous position of rescuing 2 drowning swimmers. I was pulled out along with a friend by a riptide once years ago. I was exhausted and about to go under because no one seemed to notice me going out to sea. All of a sudden there was a lifeguard further out than I was swimming to me. At the time it seemed impossible to me, but after it was obvious he used the riptide to get to me quickly and pull me back to shore. When I saw him nothing else mattered. I fought to stay above the water no matter what despite taking a bunch of water in. When I got to shore I couldn't walk and could barely move due to being exhausted. I had nightmares about it months afterwards of going under. In the nightmare I could feel my lungs fill with water as I choked to death on it, only to wake up in bed gasping for air. I know no one will see this but my friend and I still talk about it occasionally and talk about how we both thought we were going to die. Now we both have careers and he's getting married in a couple months. Obviously you also have to be a strong swimmer for this. The last part is key. Someone reading this might not know their own strength, endurance as a swimmer, and probably shouldn't immediately resort to this without knowing, using other safer options first. The most basic being make sure someone else who isn't going in is aware of the situation. Assuming you got this as a personal flex could end up with 2 victims instead of 1. Unless you for sure know with prior experience that you indeed got this. That's the thing, in a lot of rescue situations, the course of action seems counterintuitive until you realize that the ultimate priority of rescue is preventing additional corpses. Ideally you want to actually save someone, but realistically you have to keep yourself alive even if that means the other person doesn't make it. It's a real mindfuck. Generally yes, there is training for this, and strong swimmers who are experienced rescuing someone of similar or lesser weight can do it. The most important part is that if they panic and grab you, there's a variety of ways to separate yourself. You back up and try to calm them down or wait for them to be too exhausted to fight you. You can't wrestle in the water though. Importantly, this can even happen with life-saving devices like lifeguarding tubes. Obviously, all of this is easier said than done, particularly with currents and I'm dying, panic strength as factors. In lifeguarding type classes they usually say the last thing you should do is swim into the water to help a struggling swimmer. It's so dangerous, even if you are a strong swimmer, because getting someone panicking like this is always a risk. Go by the latter approach and only go to rescue someone by yourself as a last resort. Surfboard or something like it was a good idea in this setting. giving me riptide flashbacks. Middle school age and was in Mexico with my friend and our dads camping on the beach. My friend and I went out early one morning on our own to body surf and were young enough to not know how to deal with riptides. There are no lifeguards in Mexico. We got swept right out and a local fisherman walking by saw us and swam out and saved us. Never been so scared in my life. My mom never forgave my dad and they divorced a year later. I knew that would be a riptide story because when I was around 11 I went to the beach for my friend's birthday. Riptide sucked me out and I couldn't touch the ground. I had to go under to push off the bottom just to get there. The gradual sinking of the ground making it deeper was so scary. I wasn't the strongest swimmer either and never encountered a riptide so didn't know what to do. My friend knew to swim parallel but I couldn't. I used all my energy to stay afloat and my muscles were failing. Again. Really scary thinking I was losing the energy to stay afloat. Fucking scary. I thought I might actually drown and then I was waiting for superhuman strength and energy that comes with adrenaline like I heard happens in certain circumstances where people can lift cars. So I was legitimately waiting for me to power through. But when it wasn't happening and I went full-blown panic mode because I thought I was about to go under without the strength to resurface. Pushing from the bottom was getting harder and using energy so I began screaming at the top of my lungs for help. Seriously thinking I could drown. I flagged down a boogie board nearby and thank goodness I got to it right around just in time and around the time the lifeguard had swam out to me. The lifeguard swam me in and I felt a bit silly because I wasn't sure if the riptide was in my head or what. But the current really did drag me out and I tried to fight the ocean instead of swimming parallel like my friend. Man, rips are scary. Was free-diving and not paying attention. Next thing I know I'm looking back at a shore that's way farther away than it should be. Made the classic mistake of trying to swim straight back in, not realizing there was a rip. Yeah, that didn't work so well. After an hour of useless swimming I was just knackered. Laying there, in me back just thinking, Macron / Macron I'm fucked. And I've got time to think about just how fucked I am cause I'm wearing a wetsuit, and have fins and whatnot. After a rather pleasant 5-10 minutes of accepting my fate and thinking about who'll miss me, who I miss, it clicked. I'm wearing a wetsuit and am fucking buoyant. Rested up for a good 30 minutes while kicking gently, moving parallel to the shore then started aiming in. No rip to pull me back out. Great. But what's this? Nasty rocks is what? Kept kicking along the shore till I spotted a bit of a beach, then went for it. After laying on the blissfully uncomfortable pebble beach for at least an hour, a lifeguard rolled up and asked if I was okay. Sure. But I think I'm a few miles from my car so a lift would be nice. Surfers' unwritten code of rules: if you can help someone who is in a bad situation, you do it. I have pulled many people out of rips over the years. Glad you're here for that, dude. And glad those guys were there for you both. Dealing with someone who is drowning is dangerous. They will climb on you and drown you. Lifeguard training teaches you how to deal with these situations with the flotation aid. But sometimes you have to just make your best of a situation. I one time had to slap someone to get them to calm down when we were getting dragged farther out and couldn't get out of the rip easily. I'd like to give everyone here a quick PSA about trips. When caught in a rip, especially if you're at a public beach, stay calm. Do not fight the rip, just let it take you out while also getting the attention of any lifeguards or other people around. Even if there is no one around, your best choice is just to conserve your energy and just float until it stops taking you out. In some areas I know rips may even bring you closer to the beach towards the end. Had a very similar experience in 2019, in Malvarrosa Beach, in Valencia, Spain. 2 days after I finished my master's, went swimming towards a guy that was shouting for help. He started dragging me down and I had to punch him to make him stop. On the way back to the shore I realized why he was in trouble. We were in a riptide. I managed to get to the shore, but I'm sure that if I stayed 1 minute more I wouldn't be writing this. The guy I left behind was pulled out by a Red Cross jet ski. The rest of that day I felt really alive. That day 5 people died on the coastline. https://www.google.com/app/s/k-dinosaur.com/valencia/1569158467915V467_amp.html. First of obviously well done for helping people in need. I think it's fairly obvious what would have happened if you hadn't. So you can always be proud that you've saved a life. Not a lot of people get to say that. However, as a lifeguard, this is actually one of the first rules of lifeguarding, something along the lines of if you had enough time to die, what do you think's happened to the original victim? But just to clarify, still massive well done for going to help. The world needs less bystanders, not more. For future reference for other people in the situation, the best thing you can do is swim out with literally anything to pull them in with except you. If you take a t-shirt, you can throw one end and drag them to shore, and if they climb up the shirt towards you, you can just let go. A potentially better option is to grab a beach ball or something inflatable and relatively easy to throw and swim out to them and throw it. Give people 30 seconds once they've held onto something, and then they will start to listen. Finally, but important for everyone, don't swim against a riptide. You will literally never win. Just stay afloat and try and signal for help. Once the current has stopped pulling you away, then start working your way back to shore. Swim safe and sober, everyone. From an open water lifeguard. When I was 7, my family was on a cruise and we stopped near a resort, Atlantis, and went to a beach away from the resort. The waves were very strong. First, I was literally picked up off of my feet and sucked into a riptide heading parallel from the shore. Luckily, 2 girls we had met earlier on the trip happened to be wander off to the same beach as us, spotted me, and yanked me out of the water with sand in my butt. All of a sudden I'm sitting further back, and we see a little boy get sucked into the water, this time heading directly out to sea. It was crazy. My dad, who was in the water, tried to grab him and lost him. Another surfer tried grab him as well and was also sucked out by a wave. My dad started getting pummeled by these waves. This is a 5'11" 250 pounds man who went to the gym almost every day. It was the scariest thing I ever saw, and both of the boys ended up getting saved by some lifeguards from the resort after about 25 minutes of panic. I never saw if either survived though. I lifeguarded for about 10 years. It's usually easiest to get them from behind, but with no tube and them freaking out it would be difficult. One of my instructors even told us to knock them out. If you need to anything to get them to stop being aggressive towards you because you can't save them if you're dead too. When they would reach out to try and grab me, I would grab the wrister and move it in the opposite direction. They reach out with their right hand, I pull them to my right, to get them spun around and be behind them. Sometimes if they were really aggressive I would just shove them underwater and spin them around and pull them up that way. Probably not the best practice, but it stunned them for a second for me to be able to get them in a better, safer position. This was in a pool though. Riptide would be much tougher. Glad it all worked out for you. Good on you and the surfers. This sounds very similar to my story, except when I swam out to help, my brother and cousin were fine, so I started looking for my cousin's girlfriend who was a poor swimmer, and I couldn't find her anywhere because the waves were huge. I started getting exhausted and tried to swim in, but I got disoriented and started gulping water every time the waves crashed. I luckily gave up finding her, and had just enough energy to just float on the waves and get pushed towards shore. When I got there, of course she was already there, safe and sound. So I figured I would give my rip story, but everyone here seems to have had harrowing experiences. This should show the need to teach about riptides. I was just casually swimming at the beach when I noticed I was moving away from shore relatively quickly. I then observed wave breaks on either side of me but not in front of me, only turbulence. I immediately knew I was in a rip. Thanks Mom. And swam about 60-ish degrees relative to shore. I remained calm and got out with little issue. Basically, teach your kids how to recognize and escape a rip. If you know what's going on and remain calm, it is really not a huge deal. It's all about being informed. I had a similar experience. except more stupid and less heroic. My friends and I all decided to jump off a pier together. Being young and stupid, and forgetting I wasn't a very strong swimmer, I jumped but didn't know you had to swim under the riptide pushing against the pier. Naturally I was caught in the riptide and slammed against the pier. I tried swimming out of it but I couldn't, so my only hope was to swim, get pushed to the pier and hold on to the base, full of barnacles. I was there for a couple minutes and I was losing strength and grip from being cut up and getting bashed by waves. I was wondering how long I had until I just released and drowned. Thankfully my friend signaled a surfer and he rescued me. I was cut up pretty bad but I survived. I was in such shock I didn't even get the guy's name. He truly saved my life though. Thanks random stranger. I went out for a surf on a stormy day and thought to myself, no one else is out, those idiots. Before being held down by two waves after eating it on the first wave of the session, was thrown down and held under, and while being tossed around my leg rope wrapped around both my legs and one of my arms, so I was probably being held at around 5 feet under with only one arm free while my board tip is barely visible at the surface but floats vertical like ... a tombstone. Finally managed to catch a breath between sets before taking another 3 or 4 on the head and for sure just thought ... well this is it, no one's out. Fishermen will find my body or my board. Managed to get my other arm free and got to shore very quickly and then avoided the ocean for a few days even though the waves were absolutely perfect. There's a reason no one was out. Everyone else was 10 minutes down the road at another beach where the waves were smaller and cleaner. My 11-year-old nephew and I were wave diving in the Outer Banks. The waves were crashing close to shore and we dive under them and come through the other side. It was rougher than usual for June. After jumping through one, the undertow took my feet out from under me and put me in a sitting position. Well, as soon as I knew it, another 7 to 8 feet wave was coming right down on my head. I'm sitting on the ground pretty much. I tried to stand but couldn't get up. The wave hit and it was like I was in a washing machine, upside down sideways rolling around helpless. I'm 6'4" and at the time 260. My right shoulder hit the sand. OBX there's a ton of shells and rocks, and lost enough skin that I looked like an animal attacked me. If my tumble has pushed my body a little further upside and it was my head or neck, I'd probably be dead. I always tell people I almost died. Few understand. For me this is the scariest possible thing about driving. I can drive as well as I like. I can be as cautious as I want. I can go as slow as I want. Some idiot could still come flying out onto my side of the road going the wrong way and wipe me out. Just like that. Happened to a family near where I grew up a couple of years back. Some dude got messed up on drugs or something and started driving the wrong way down a highway just like this. He hit the family head on and they all died. He lived, though, as far as I can remember. Edit. Thank you for those of you sharing your stories and experiences with this. It's truly astonishing how much this happens. Those of you suggesting I might drive too cautiously or be living too afraid. I don't and am not. Don't worry, smile. I advocate driving defensively and sensibly. Ensure your speed is appropriate for the conditions on the road. Been driving some years and been in 2 accidents myself, both zero fault on my side. Be sensible, and good luck on the roads to you. When I was 18 I was driving through an intersection with the right-of-way, going 70 km/h, or 43.5 miles per hour. A man in a blue Mazda 3 hatchback decided to run the red light turning left. He was so close to me that I could see the whites of his eyes, and in a split second I thought I'm about to T-bone this guy, driver's side door, and he is going to die. Instinctively I yanked on the wheel and swerved to the right and instantly went over the curb and off the road, onto someone's lawn. I slammed the brakes but because I was on grass the tires locked and the car kept momentum. I went through their wooden fence and garden, and straight into the brick wall on the side of their house. As soon as I went off the road, I 100% thought I was going to die. My life didn't flash before my eyes, but people close to me did. It could have only been a second or two, but time seemed to slow down and my brain was racing. I thought about how my girlfriend would react, what my parents would say, what my friends would think, etc. When the car hit the wall, it punched a few bricks out of place and the entire front end of the vehicle caved in. The windows shattered, the tires exploded, the doors bent into an L shape and the car started to fill with smoke. However, the radio was still playing Vicarious by Tool. I was concussed by the airbag, broke my nose, jaw, 2 fingers, had whiplash and my left knee was dislocated. I was in shock and couldn't believe that what just happened was real, and so I just sat there kinda freaking out. A group of parents from a birthday party across the street saw what happened and ran to the car and pulled me from it as they thought it was about to catch fire. The man in the Mazda 3 drove away. If it wasn't for the testimony of those parents who told the police they witnessed the man run the intersection and that I didn't do anything wrong, I would have been completely liable for all of the property damage, and additionally insurance would not have replaced the vehicle as it would have been deemed at fault. I am glad nobody else got hurt.